Hey guys, CFI-Andrew here with another video on some of the knowledge required for the airworthiness of the aircraft, and especially pre-flight assessment of the aircraft. Today we're going to be talking about the ELT, or the Emergency Locator Transmitter, and its requirements. Again, we're using the data out of the Airplane Flying Handbook, FAH 8083 3 Bravo. You can get this book at your favorite pilot shop or the flight school, but you can also order it through our website, CFI-Andrew.com. We appreciate you using those links, as it does provide us a little bit of revenue to keep making these videos. Go into the definition of exactly what airworthy means and some of the other videos in a little bit more detail, but basically we're checking that the airplane meets its type design, it's in a condition for safe flight, and it does meet all of its regulatory and inspection type airworthiness requirements. This does include an annual inspection of the ELT, or a yearly inspection of the ELT. What kind of inspection is required for the emergency locator transmitter? There are really two regs that require this. It's both part of 91407, but 407D says the ELT will be inspected within the preceding 12 calendar months. 91407C will say that the batteries will have an expiration date and be replaced on time. So those two things together kind of give you that inspection of the ELT. Very often they are done at the annual because it is a 12-month type inspection, but it at least has to be done every 12 months. It can be done by an A&P mechanic. It's more maintenance, and it is kind of a part of an annual that would require an IA. You're going through the instructions of continued airworthiness, you're doing the inspection of the ELT as prescribed by the manufacturer and approved by the FAA, and then you're making sure that those batteries are good. And of course, batteries are really important because if we do set down off field, we want this thing to transmit for as long as it can, and fresh batteries in there are very important. They used to be due about every year. Now with the lithium ions, you typically get about 5 years out of an ELT battery. Now the older 121.5 megahertz ELTs that were the very common ELT and the only ELT option when I first started flying back in 1986, they just transmitted a signal, and you would have to use kind of a signal locating device to actually home in on the aircraft, try to figure out where it was coming from. This was very problematic because an ELT would go off on the ground after a hard landing. There was no sort of enunciation. It was this little box that sat in the tail of the airplane. So you'd have a hard landing, you'd tie the airplane down, put it in the hangar, go home, and then they were trying to figure out where this ELT was coming from, and they'd have to go around the airport, locate the airplane, get into it, turn off the ELT, and so on. Now with the new 406 ELTs, one of the nice things is that there is actually a hexadecimal code that's transmitted with the signal, and that tells them exactly who that ELT belongs to with contact information, make, model of the airplane, the tail number, and they can actually call you on the phone and say, hey, your ELT went off. But it also has a remote switch in the panel and enunciation, so you know when the ELT went off, and therefore you can shut it down, not burn up that battery time with an ELT going off for an hour, forcing a battery replacement. And the 406 just is a lot better technology. The ELTs are a lot more survivable in an accident, and all in all, just, it's a life-saving piece of equipment, and you need to make sure that's registered so that they have that information. If your phone number changes, don't forget to change that. And obviously, if it's a flight school airplane, it's going to be registered either to the leaseholder of the airplane or to the flight school. So as I said, it's located in the tail of the airplane. That's because it's the most survivable section of the aircraft in case of an accident. But you should be able to locate this device. Very often they're removable. You can take them if you should have to leave the scene where you put the airplane down off field. Maybe it's not a particularly safe location. Maybe you need to seek shelter a little bit away from the airplane. You always want to stay with the aircraft if you can, but if you do need to take it away, know how it comes out of the bracket, if it has an extra antenna that can be used with it, exactly how that works, where it is in the aircraft, how to get to it, and so on. So when the airplane's apart for an annual walkout or even similar model of the airplane, if your flight school has the whole fleet of 172s or Piper Archers, go out, talk to the mechanic, say, hey, can you show me where the ELT is? And how do I take this with me should I ever have to leave a scene where I've put an airplane down to seek shelter? How do I take the ELT with me? And also where the remote switch is on the panel, if there's an audible alarm to say that the ELT is going off, and how you can reset these. The mechanic can actually show you the data that goes with the ELT and say, okay, this is the procedure and this is how you reset it, and so on. But very handy to go out to the hangar. There's a lot of value in that. Mechanics are very friendly and helpful to students that want to learn. and just say, hey, can you show me where this safety equipment is and things I need to know about it? I'll be more than happy to teach you. So this one is one of the shorter videos. The ELT, of course, is a fairly simple topic. You can read more in that airplane flying manual. You can look at 91207, read the actual regulation on there, talk to your mechanic, talk to your flight instructor, use all the available resources. But what, if any, kind of questions are you going to get on this during a flight review, potential ramp check, oral questions when you're seeking one of your pilot certificates? The inspector, examiner, flight instructor might ask you, please show me the aircraft is airworthy. That's going to include finding that 91207D entry in the aircraft logbooks and saying, yes, the ELT has been inspected within the preceding 12 calendar months. So again, I always recommend students look at these logbooks before the day of their check ride. Talk to the mechanic if you need to. Do they use stamps? Do they use labels? Do they handwrite in the logbook? But start at the end of the logbook, kind of today's date, and work backwards in time towards the front of the logbook. And you're going to find that most recent 91207D inspection. From a paperwork standpoint, that shows that the ELT has been inspected and it's airworthy. So they might ask, when was your 91207D inspection done? Or when was your ELT inspection done? You can go to the aircraft logbooks, find the date on the sign-off. It may be buried in with the annual inspection and maintenance of the aircraft. That the 91207 could just be a line item in there. So if you're looking for 91207, might be an individual label, signature stamp, whatever. Might also be buried inside the annual, which could be a fairly comprehensive list of maintenance and repair items done. But you're looking for the 91207D, look for the date of that sign off. That's going to tell you when it's done. It's due 12 calendar months later. Okay, so if it's done April 5th, it's done it's due the end of April next year. When is your ELT battery due? That should also be in that airframe logbook entry. It'll also be on a sticker on the outside of the ELT. And how do you activate the ELT manually? This is going to be that remote switch on the panel, and it will have some instructions on there as to how to use it, but you should be familiar, know how to activate that ELT manually, because you can turn that on before you put the airplane down, not relying on the G switch to activate the ELT in case you land off airport. You want that thing going off just before touchdown if at all possible. Thanks again for watching. I hope you find these videos helpful. Try to keep them between 5 and 15 minutes on each individual topic and give you the additional knowledge over what you studied for your written test and what you're learning in flight with your CFI. This may be included during ground lessons and so on, but very often it is just additional study material for you or refreshing that aviation knowledge. And please like the video, please subscribe to our channel, and you can also look on our website, CFI-Andrew.com, for the complete list of YouTube videos. Thank you very much, and fly safe.